This is Lisa from Mobile Tech Review, and today we're doing a comparison of two competing phones on AT&T, the HTC Inspire 4G on the left and the Motorola Atrix 4G on the right. These are both high-end phones on AT&T, though the Atrix sells for $199 with contract, where the Inspire is $99 or half the price. You do get some extras, though, for your money with the Motorola. It has a front-facing camera, which the HTC lacks. It has a dual-core 1 GHz Tegra CPU, and it can use all of those nifty accessories, expensive though they may be. Those include the lap dock, the HD multimedia dock, and the regular dock for the Atrix. So if you're interested in those accessories, clearly the Atrix is going to be for you and not the Inspire. But for those of you who are just looking for a strong 3G, 4G Android high-end phone on AT&T, this is for you. The Inspire is obviously larger as a 4.3-inch LCD at the standard 800 by 480 pixel resolution. The Motorola is just 4 inches, and it has a higher resolution of 960 by 540 pixels. That means text is smaller and a little bit harder to see on the Motorola, but you do get more pixels overall, which can make for sharper photos and videos. Personally, my choice would be the larger display. It gives you something more like a mini computer feel. There's less need to zoom out and in to view web pages well, and flash video is a little bit larger and easier to see on the bigger display. Another salient difference is this runs HTC Sense software, which pretty much everybody loves. It offers some nice enhancements to Android. You've got this big old flip clock with the weather, but that's not the only thing. They have FriendStream, their own news, all sorts of little handy widgets and little customizations that just make Android a little bit friendlier to use. On the other hand, the Atrix has Moto Blur. As you can see here, you have the traditional Moto Blur controls for phone, launch your applications, and go to your contacts here, and it has a whole lot of widgets for social networking and other things littered all over the screens. Now, if you don't want to use those, you can close them. That's a good point. And it seems like a lot of people who have Moto Blur phones do end up disabling a lot of Moto Blur. Moto Blur also requires that you create an account with Motorola. It's free, and it can back up your settings and some useful stuff like that, but there you go. It's yet another account to create. In terms of speed, the HTC Inspire 4G is no slouch. It has a single-core second-generation Qualcomm Snapdragon CPU, and it scores 1714 in our tests with Quadrant Benchmark, which is quite good, better than most Android phones on the market. Of course, the Motorola with the Tegra 2 gets nearly 2500, even faster. In day-to-day use, where you're just thumbing through your applications and launching programs, they're really pretty similar. They're both very responsive and fast phones. You're not going to feel like you need a lot more speed with the HTC, but the Motorola is more future-proof thanks to that dual-core Tegra 2 CPU. In terms of design, they're about the same thickness. The HTC might look slimmer at first unless you really put them side by side, because it has a slimming design with deep curves on the side. And the Motorola is fairly plasticky looking, and it in fact is made all of plastic. The HTC has that understated, tasteful kind of metal look to it, even though it too is a plastic phone. We give look points definitely to the HTC device. In terms of size in the hand, you're going to have a big hand for a 4.3-inch device. I mean, at 4 inches, the Motorola is not exactly tiny either, but clearly it's a little bit more pocketable and a bit smaller. Both have the capacitive touch buttons on the bottom. And on the rear, you can see this guy has a 5-megapixel camera with dual LED flash, autofocus. This guy has an 8-megapixel with dual LED flash. The HTC takes noticeably better pictures and video than the Motorola does. One interesting thing the Motorola has is the biometric fingerprint scanner here. You can use this for logging into your phone, which is kind of a neat touch, and we haven't seen that since the days of the HP iPac. In terms of speaker quality and volume, the Motorola wins. It is very loud and fairly clear too. The HTC, just okay. In terms of comfort level holding to your head, the Motorola is a little bit more rounded and more comfortable, and the HTC has this little rigid edge here for the speaker grill that tends to grind into the ear a little bit. So let's take a look at some software and other things on the two devices in detail. And now we're going to compare a flash playback. We're on the same video reviews, a video review of the HTC Thunderbolt on Verizon on both, and we'll see how they play. Atrix on the right, Inspire on the left. Both running off of AT&T's 3G network,
This is Lisa
or
from
4G,
Mobile
as they
Tech
call
Review,
it.
and this is the HTC Thunderbolt.
Atrix got
from
started
Verizon.
faster.
This is their flagship phone. It runs Android OS 2.2 Froyo with HTC Sense software, and that's not the big deal. What's the big deal is the 4.3-inch display that's quite colorful. Things down according to uploadspeedtest.net. Upload speeds have been a little slow for us, but we're still testing them. And
They were running in full screen mode.
5 minutes. In fact, we've actually used this with the Wi-Fi hotspot.
It's hard to tell right now because they're both playing, but the Atrix has a louder speaker. In terms of battery life, the Motorola has a 1930 milliamp per hour battery. That is a lot of capacity, and it does need it being a dual core with a large display. And the HTC has only a 1230 milliamp battery that sits in this teeny little slot that's just about impossible to access. The door is very fiddly on it, but so you would think that the HTC has much less battery life, and in fact it doesn't have very good battery life. You definitely don't have to charge this guy every day, the HTC, but the Motorola also goes through battery pretty well. I would say it lasts about, for us, 20% longer than the HTC does, which is significant enough. It helps, but it's not going to last nearly twice as long as you might think given the battery capacities. Another thing to keep in mind in terms of the different CPUs, right now the Atrix is the only dual-core Tegra 2 phone on the market, but we will see others. I don't think every phone by any means, even if it's high-end, is going to have that, but it is a bit more future-proof, especially for those of you who want to do gaming, for example, and for those who do heavy multitasking, because right now Froyo doesn't really make a lot of use of dual-core CPUs unless you are multitasking. Of course, if they get software upgrades that take advantage of the dual-core in other areas, it'll be an advantage, but definitely if you're into gaming, and for the multimedia stuff too, you're going to get a bit more performance on the Motorola. Both phones have LEDs for notification up top, and the Atrix has a front-facing webcam for video chat, while the HTC does not. That's a big difference. They both have HSPA+, what AT&T calls 4G, though so far we haven't seen anything better than 3G speeds, and they both have the same capped upload speeds. Wi-Fi, 802.11n, Bluetooth, GPS present on both. They both run Froyo 2.2. Customizations are the only thing that are different, as we said, Moto Blur for the Motorola and HTC Sense for the HTC. So that's a quick comparison of the HTC Inspire 4G on AT&T and the Motorola Atrix 4G on AT&T. I'm Lisa from Mobile Tech Review, and visit our website to read full reviews of both phones.